My invitation caught the attention of both Breitbart and The Blaze. Wow, somebody who calls himself an anti-racist slams me by using, well, racism, because I don't buy his nonsense that black net worth, black income compared to white net worth and white income, the disparity is due to slavery and Jim Crow. It's crap. Damn! Now may I suggest some reading for the former Mr. Ibram Henry Rogers?
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Slavery is hardly the root cause of America's prosperity. If it were, then we would expect American states that practiced slavery to be richer than those that did not. But we see precisely the opposite. The South, where slavery thrived, was the poorest and most backward region of the country, according to economist Thomas Sowell, and that remains true today. But, what about slavery and Jim Crow?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Talks with Kenny here today, and wow, that was a good opening statement. I know. Let me know if you guys like the intros. I've been playing around trying to give some intros because I want to give the meat of the video in the beginning, so that way you guys get at least the basis for this reaction video. My problem with this is it's not necessarily a problem, but my problem with these race hustlers, and I'm taking Larry Elder's position, because end of the day, when they come on out, when we come on, we make our statement, we make our claims, all they're interested in is making fun of us, looking down on us, saying, we don't need to debate you. We got the narrative, we got the popularity. For now you do. But what about those in the future? I got influenced by Larry Elder more than I got by this Ibram X Kendi guy. And now I have my son. When I go to Barnes & Nobles, guess who books I avoid intentionally? The anti-racist books, because end of the day, I'm in with Larry Elder. It's baloney. You may have the popular narrative today, but that won't always be the case if you keep running from these debates. And this is the debate that Black America should have had. This should have been a televised, like a boxing match. Larry Elder on this corner, Ibram X Kendi on this corner. What's the reason for racial inequality in America today? Go. Like, this should have been a nationally televised event. Like, this should have been pay-per-view type. That's how hype I would have been for seeing this debate, because you're getting two experts. Have at it. America will be the one that's benefiting from it, because then America will have an informed perspective on racial inequality in America. But guess who cheated us out of that? Ibram X Kendi cheated us out of this debate. Because why? He cared about himself more than his message. If he had this message that America is truly a racist country, wouldn't you want to counteract any narrative that goes against the truth that you perceive is to be true? To me, the truth is worth fighting for. And if you believe that you have the truth, you should debate every chance you get. So that way you make sure you know, hey, this is the truth. This is the reality of the situation. Here's why. But instead, I keep saying his name wrong, Ibram X Kendi, he chose to worry about himself because he's selfish. Oh, I don't want to put myself in a compromising position. He doesn't care about the truth. He cares about his own pocket, his own money. He thought about himself instead of what was best for the community. What was best for the community? Larry Elder and him to debate. Who decision he made? What decision he made? Who had benefited more? Himself or Black America? I'll wait. Black America? No. He thought about himself. His pocket. He didn't care what was better for the community. And this is the human consequence of this. People run around with a popular narrative that's not true, that's not based in reality. In this video, we're going to go into some of Larry Elder's facts, because Ibram X Kendi, Ibram X Kendi didn't want to debate Larry Elder. Let's continue. Let's get into this video.
Despite the grand myth that black economic progress began or accelerated with the passage of the civil rights laws and the war on poverty programs of the 1960s, the fact is that the poverty rate among blacks fell from 87% in 1940 to 47% in 1960. But over the next 20 years, the poverty rate among blacks fell another 18 percentage points. This was just the continuation of a previous economic trend, but at a slower rate of progress. It was not some grand deliverance, close quote. That is so counter to what we are taught in school, what appears on the editorial pages of newspapers, I feel as though I want to ask you. You really want to stick with that assertion?
I have more evidence in my most recent book, Discrimination and Disparities.
It's a book I'm currently reading right now, actually. It's a very interesting book. But yeah, it destroys this whole narrative that black people wasn't prosperous in this country until laws was passed for their benefit. So this kind of destroys the narrative that for black people to succeed, they need more government involvement when they were already succeeding before government intervened. Crazy, isn't it? All we wanted was rights. Okay, we wanted our rights protected by the government. That was all we wanted. Once that was secured, to me, America did its job. Now the rest is up to the black people to make it better. But instead, what happened? We liberals, we bought into the legacy of liberalism. That's not the legacy of slavery. It's the legacy of liberalism that they have to do for you. They know what's best for you. And then they put the solutions in there, welfare, whatever, and then incentivize what? Bad behavior, bad economic decision making. And what? It set up the black community in further poverty. Right? And that's the center of my whole argument, that a lot of the outcomes that you get personally and as a community is due to the decisions made in the community as an individual. That's my case. That's my case. That's my position. Let's get back into it.
I point out that this really is a pattern not peculiar to blacks or even to the United States. That you can see the same thing in England. You can see it in any number of other countries. That the poor were much worse off economically, let's say in the first half of the 20th century, and yet in terms of their own behavior, they were far more decent societies, and afterwards, after this welfare state that's supposed to make them better off and better human beings, that's when the crime rate skyrocketed on both sides of the Atlantic. The British were famous for being perhaps the most polite, considerate society in the world. Prior to that, after that, you get things like the 2011 riots over there, in London, Manchester, where they're going through this. They anticipated Ferguson and Baltimore by a few years. And the same things, the burning down of buildings, the throwing of gasoline bombs, the whole smear. And none of those people were descendants of slaves.
And blacks, of course, were not the only group that faced discrimination. Starting with the California Alien Land Law of 1913, 14 states passed laws preventing Japanese American peasant farmers from owning land and property.
And that's my thing. Right? Because this is the only kind of racism I would personally worry about. Laws. Hey, you can't own property because you are XX this person. You can't own laws. That's the kind of racism I'm worried about. But because at the end of the day, is racism the popular narrative in the country or not? That's the answer that's the question you have to answer for me to go along with your I have to worry about racism narrative. No, that's it. Is racism more prominent today than yesterday? Is that the argument you're trying to make? America's more racist or less racist today? Answer that for me. Because that's what I worry about. End of the day, I only can worry about and control what I do. The decisions that I make. The output that I put out there. Right? Where did we get this entitlement that we think that other groups of people should do for us? The only thing we should do is, hey, you should play fair. I should play fair. We should both be held accountable to the same rules and standards. That's it. That's the only thing we could really win-win agree on across all races. The minute you try to give some justification why you deserve special treatment, Japanese people can easily come in here and say, hey, we've been discriminated against. We got racism against. You don't see them marching on the street about racism. That's what I'm saying. My whole argument is Black America thinks that they're the only ones that face discrimination, the only ones that suffered in history. Bro, everyone has skeletons in their closet, bro. It's a human thing. It's not just a race-specific thing. And to assume that a group of people are racist by genetics, I thought genetic determinism was seen as false from the beginning. Your genetics doesn't determine your outcome. But this guy, Ibram X Kendi, whatever his name is, I always get it wrong. He's trying to make the claim that white people are born racist. That's like me saying all poor people are black. Whatever you are capable of as a white, Asian, whatever person, I'm capable as well. I don't see my race as a disadvantage. That's genetic determinism. If you believe in that, hey, that's you. But it's a failed theory. They try to use that same theory for why, oh, black people aren't as smart as white people. It got proven wrong. So how I know your anti-racist theory about white people ain't gonna be proven wrong too. This is why I think CRT is garbage. I don't need it. I don't need no theory telling me that I'm powerless because I'm black. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. Because if your racism can be dismissed just on the fact that whether I believe it or not, then is racism really a major issue in America today? That's a question for people in the comment section. Because here, this is a law. Regardless of how I believe, oh, racism doesn't exist. And if this law was existing today, it wouldn't matter. I would have been affected regardless if I want to recognize racism or not. Can you find me a law like this today? That's what I'm asking for. Can you find me a law like this? Oh, you have to go to the past, 1913. You got to go to 1960, you got to go in the past. Okay, I'm looking for 2022. I need a law like this in 2022. That's what I'm looking for me to consider racism more than just a minor inconvenience in my life. Let's go.
Property. These laws existed until 1952 when the Supreme Court ruled them unconstitutional. Add to this the internment of 120,000 Japanese Americans during World War II, and it's fair to say that the Japanese were given no bootstraps in America. Yet somehow they prospered. Nevertheless, by 1970, census data showed Japanese Americans out-earning Anglo-Americans, Irish Americans, German Americans, Italian Americans, and Polish Americans. For Asian Americans on the whole, an analysis of wealth data from 1989 to 2013 predicted that their median wealth soon will surpass the white median level.
But America is based on racism. America was founded on racism. But in the same country that racism supposedly it's founded, is the foundation of the country, minorities are going to do better than the white people that said racism is supposed to benefit. If that's racism, I guess we need more of that then. Right? This is the facts that race hustlers have to debate against. They have to fact check this. Or you're going to lose the narrative. You're already losing the narrative. I'm 26 years old and I'm siding with Larry Elder on this. Keep playing. Keep acting like, look, you pro blacks, keep acting like you got the narrative, the racial narrative. Keep it up. Because the more you avoid the conversation, you let the person you avoid the conversation from run the conversation. He gets to cast a narrative now. Because at the end of the day, these narratives, these things, people are already set in their ways, right? You can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? It's easier to create a strong child than to fix a broken man, right? Right? In the future, if Larry Elder say, oh, look, I said these facts, this guy ran. Whatever his excuse is, the reality is, I don't care about his words. The reality is, he did not debate Larry Elder. And now it's go based on following and influence. I think Larry Elder's more known than this guy, but hey, I could be wrong. But hey, if he care about his money, he don't care. I got a niche. I got a group of people that will buy what I'm selling. That's all I care about. I got to protect that. That's it. He made a business move, not a moral move. Because if you care about your people like he claims he care about his people, he'll debate Larry Elder. Regardless if he wins or lose, he'll debate Larry Elder so that way there's a more informed America, black or white. It don't matter. But who ran?
Say it ain't so.
If wealth differences were largely explained by America's history of favoring certain groups over others, then it would be hard to explain why Asian Americans who were never favored are on track to become wealthier than whites.
And just another side note, people were getting mad about my take on affirmative action. I said affirmative action will create more racial problems. Look what happened. Asian people are about to become, I think they already, on average, they make more money than whites, but on wealth, they're catching up. They're a minority group. This is why the conservatives called the Asian people the inconvenient minority for the Democrats, because at the end of the day, all the claims, all the racial bias, racial this, racial that. Okay, what about the Asian Americans then? How they're doing? They're a minority too. They're more of a minority than the black community. How they're doing so well in this country? We'll wait. And all I'm asking for is some answers. Hey, give me a logical explanation for this. Oh, it's because of their whiteness. No, that can't be, because white people are here. This is a country that's majority white people. How they're succeeding and black people are not succeeding. To me, I'm saying is because black people aren't, they're just not competing. They're not competing against it. We're not competing like that in academia, right? Black women are the most educated group of people in our community. Okay, what about the black men though? You don't think that's lowering the community? You don't think that plays a part of us competing at an economic level? It don't matter how well the women do. If your counterpart doesn't perform anyway, it'll affect, that's 50%. You're only working at 50% capacity. I'm just saying. Because this is the reality. I'm empirical. This is why I like Thomas Sowell so much. He gives empirical evidence, and that's what I like. I like things that I can observe and verify, and I can check for myself. If everything you have to say is a theory, and I have to like believe it or not, I'm just gonna dismiss it as, oh, this is just subjective. This is just perception. Here's the reality. I can verify that. Oh, let me see Asian wealth. Let me see the average income for Asian American. Let me go see Asian admissions records in Harvard, Yale, MIT. This is why they're getting discriminated against for other groups of people. But affirmative action is not racist. It's to correct the wrong. Okay, how the Asians are doing so well in this country then? It's not a false comparison because Asian Americans are doing well in this country, right? And even if you want to keep it just black, right? So you say, oh no, it's an exclusive bias against black people. Even if you want to keep it there, look at the immigrants. Nigerian Americans, they're overrepresented in colleges as well. When I go to a college, bro, they're being doctors, they're being engineers. What's the excuse for you? You're saying there's a racial bias? Where's the racial bias? How they know this person's an African and you're an what's the name? I don't know. They always change the term. First it was ADOS, now it's FBA. Whatever you are, generational slave. I don't know, a descendant of slave. How they can tell? How they can tell? Like just looking on you. When you get pulled over, how they can tell if you're a descendant of slave or not? They can't. We're all black. So if I have a different perspective of America and you have a different perspective of America, what is subjective and what is reality? That's what I want to know. Here's a quote from Seneca. We are more frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination. Imagination. That's a big part. Imagination. Are you imagining racism as an issue in your life, or if that's the reality? That's my question for everyone in the comment section. Let's continue.
But what about Japanese and Chinese? They appear to me, at least, to be an identifiable minority, and they surely don't have the Jewish option of changing their names. Now, the Japanese and Chinese saw gross discrimination in the United States, which included alien land laws. That is, by 1910, 11 Western states had laws that said that aliens could not own land. And in 1876, I believe it was, the Oriental Exclusion Act was written. And then we remember in 1940s, during World War II, the Japanese were interned and their property was virtually confiscated to the extent that they had to sell at very short notice. But yet, according to the 1980 census, Japanese Americans have the highest median family income.
Here's another parallel that I want to throw in there as well. They say the rate of single motherhood also contributes to your poor economic position. And if you look at, I guess, census data for Asian Americans versus Black Americans, in the Black American communities, we have a higher rate of single motherhood in the country compared to Asians who have the lowest rate of single motherhood in the nation. Asian people are statistically more likely to be married than not married, right? If you went blind and you went to every kid, you saw an Asian kid, you'll say 2-parent household, you'll be 76% right. If you look at a Black person and you say he came from a single mother household, 76% chance you'll be right. They're literally, the Asians are the opposite of the Black community. Both of them face discrimination. What was the difference? The approach. The Asian community made a different decision than the Black community. That's what I'm attributing the different outcomes on. You want to say racial bias, race hustlers, pro-blacks, or people who just believe that racial bias plays a bigger part in why they have negative outcomes compared to other groups of people, fine. But you guys have to explain this one for me. I need a clear, logical. It can't just be, oh, you're just denying racism. You're just doing. It can't be none of that. It has to be something I can see in reality, I can observe in reality, and it better not be in the past. Just like the lady in my previous video, by the time this video come out, it should be already up about Africa poverty. Let's get past this already, because it's not benefiting anyone. Black community is trying to drive while looking back. That's what y'all doing. How you gonna go towards the future when you keep looking back in the past? You can't change the past. Complaining about it in the present won't change the past. All you can do is, hey, can I set up the future generations of black community for a better future? Yes or no? That's all you can focus on. You can't focus on rewriting history. You can't do that. All y'all want to do is pick the scab of racism, use it as justification for special treatment. That's how it comes across to me. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Let's continue.
They have the greatest percentage of professional workers. That is, in the nationally, 15% of Americans are professional workers. For Japanese, it is 25%. And
Crazy.
For Chinese, it's 24%.
Ooh, Asians
Also,
running it.
Japanese and Chinese have the lowest crime rates, the greatest marital stability, and the lowest alcoholism rates.
But, insists Mr. Kendi, slavery and Jim Crow. Nor can historical racism explain wealth disparities between groups of the same race. A 2015 survey of wealth in Boston found that the median black household had only $8 of wealth. Newsweek reported this fact under the heading, Racism in Boston.
Before I continue, end of the day, we already know how it's going to turn out. But literally, I find every time someone screams racism about something, my friends will say, oh, look at this is racist, whatever. I say, all right. I look. I'm like, hey, don't you think it happened because this person worked more hours than you? No, that can't be the case. I work just as hard. No, you lying to me. You can BS the other people, but you can't BS me. Who didn't do homework, me or you? You can see it like look at any different outcomes based on race. If you just look, oh, black people are underperforming here, black people are overperforming here. All it deals with is performance. If you want to give special treatment to a specific group of people, then you can't. That to me, that's incoherent to my worldview, and there's no good justification for that, because all I can say is, hey, that's going to cause more racial problems. Those other groups of people are going to start viewing these people as privileged. 20 years from now, there's going to be white kids, poor white kids, that are going to say, oh, you're a privileged black man. You got black privilege. Schools will hire you because they need quotas. They'll discriminate against me, even though me and you come from the same poor neighborhood. I won't be discriminated against more than you. Imagine that. A kid, if we continue with affirmative action, there's going to be a white poor kid that grew up in the same poor community as his black friend, and he's going to realize that fact, and you cannot deny that. That's the future I'm talking about. But, I'm wrong for saying affirmative actions will cause more racial problems. Okay, time will tell. It always happens. Time will tell. It's not an issue until it becomes an issue. Typical liberal logic. Let's continue.
But the $8 figure only pertained to black Bostonians of American ancestry. Black Bostonians of Caribbean ancestry had $12,000 of wealth, despite having identical rates of college graduation, only slightly higher incomes, and being equally black in the same city.
Damn! Them facts hurt. I'm sorry. Them facts hurt. It goes back to my other argument before in my previous videos. I come from a Haitian household, and they drilling me. I wasn't worried about racism. I was worried about not letting my mom and dad down, because my dad and mom put in me that, hey, Haitians, we hardworking people. We work hard for what we have. So they put nothing in this world's free, son. That's what they put in my head. So I never felt entitled to anything. I felt like I had to earn everything I got. And look where I'm. And to me, no matter what, nobody in the conversation can tell me otherwise. I got an aunt that owns 2 houses. She's a landlord. She's renting the other house that she used to live in. She's in a 2-story, 6-bedroom house in Miramar, Florida. Go look up for a 6-bedroom house in Miramar, Florida. That's where I come from. That's the culture I come from. I don't come from none of this. Oh, woe is me. Someone need to do something for me. No, I'm coming from, hey, Ken, if you want it, it's up to you to get it. You have power over your mind, nor not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's a quote I say to myself every damn day. When I'm posting up these videos, hey, I can't control how many views I'm going to get. I only can control what? My output. That's it. Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. That's it. That's all I can control. The preparation. That's all I can control. That's what I worry about. I don't worry about external factors that I have no say in. I want to control what I can say or what I can do on this platform. That's it. That's all I can do. That's all I should worry about. And I say, hey, the black community should take this approach, and y'all mad. This is logic. I need logic. I don't need feelings. I don't need none of this emotional stuff, because I know you guys like to appeal to empathy, appeal to emotion, to blackball me or blackmail me into agreeing with you. That's how it always is. But if I show off my emotions, you can't give a coherent argument, because I have to accept your argument. If I don't accept your argument on face value, you guys got no argument. That's why I need some empirical evidence. Find a counter argument for this. That's all I want. That's all I'm interested in hearing in this video. If you find any part of the video where you say, hey, I know a counter argument to this fact, post it. Give me your argument in the comment section or whatever. Or just say disagree and say, hey, look, I understand this is true and all, but let's talk about empathy, Kenny. And this is why you should be empathetic to the black community. Fine. But you have to acknowledge that this is true or not. That's it. That's all I care about before you comment in the comment section. That's it. That's all I'm looking for. Because I'm starting to get tired of you guys calling me names, calling me Tommy Boy, Uncle Tom, Coon, don't know what I'm talking about, uneducated. I'm tired of this now, because now I'm bringing you the facts now.
If you look at West Indian American blacks, the median family of West Indian American blacks is slightly higher than the median income of Americans in general. That's in 1972. Moreover, the professional status of West Indian American blacks is slightly above the national norm. As I said, the percentage of people across the country that are professional workers are 15%, and West Indian Americans are 15.6%.
But what say people like Professor Kendi about inherited wealth and the racial gap? Researchers at Brandeis followed a nationally representative set of 1,700 families from 1984 to 2009 and measured their wealth gains over that period. They concluded that inherited wealth and length of home ownership accounted for 5% and 27% respectively of the racial disparity in wealth gains. But even if that combined 32% could be automatically ascribed to historical racism, which it cannot, that would still leave 68% of the gap to be explained by other factors.
So what does this tell me based on this information? The wealth gap is not due to racism. And for those who say affirmative action is not racism, it won't create more racial problems. California, and you can Google this. In California, they put up to vote during the 2020 election to remove the Title IX protection in California state law so they can enact affirmative action policies. And you don't know what Title IX is? Title IX it protects people on the basis of race, gender, and sexual orientation. That law, Title IX. And California wanted to remove it from state law so they can enact affirmative action, DEI policies. But affirmative action is not racist.
And this is what you have to understand about being rich. Most people who get rich or get very wealthy are first generation. Yes. What that means is most people wasn't born into wealth. Some are, don't get me wrong, but most people have their hunger, their inner desire, something within them that pushes them towards either investing their money or working their way to obtain riches. So what that means is if several others or most people got rich by doing those things, that means that first generation, we can become rich as well, no matter how old you are. I don't care if you're 15 or 55. You can start doing things to be first generation wealthy.
Legacy of slavery, though. The legacy of slavery, though. This man literally said, hey, at any point in time, if you make the decision to break the legacy of slavery, you can. So when Kanye, I'm starting to agree. Now Kanye West looks less crazy to me when he says slavery is a choice. being oppressed is a choice. Because literally, if you make the choice, hey, I'm gonna be somebody, and now I have the goal, I'm gonna be somebody. Okay, how you gonna get there? Okay, let me research. Oh, I can do trade school. I don't want to go to school. I can do trade school. Oh, plumbing pays 6 figures. Oh, I could be a garbage man. Oh, let me invest my money. Right? You figure out your path. But once you have a destination, the finding the path is the easy part. Now is the execution. Are you executing on that plan now? That's the real test of whether someone is really about it or they're just talking about it, right? Everyone knows how to lose weight, but what's the difference between everyone who knows how to lose weight is the execution. It's the same way. It's the same way here. Everyone knows how to get economically successful. You either go to school, and if you don't go to school, entrepreneurship, or you take a third path like I did. You take I'm gonna do school, and then I found a different path. Get work experience. Get in the workforce early, bro. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. There's 1,000 ways to be successful economically. But you worrying about some imaginary thing that happened in the past, and you trying to attribute what happened to the past to what's affecting you today. Imagination, you suffer more from imagination than from reality. Find me the reality. That's what I care about. I don't care about your imagination. I care about the reality. Show me the reality. What's the reality? The reality is black people are disproportionately in poor neighborhoods. Okay, I say that's a personal choice. Prove me wrong. Look at their parents. Prove me wrong. Most of the time as a kid, if you grew up poor, it's because it's your parents' fault. That's my take. That's your parents' fault. That ain't no generations of slavery, nothing. That's your parents' fault. That's your parents' responsibility. Because if my son grew up poor, if we didn't grow up in this neighborhood, if I didn't put my kid here in this house, when I complain, oh, my kids, they're not in the good school system or whatever. Well, you chose to live there. That's the reality. Oh, but that's all I can afford. That's the reality. That's all you can afford. But don't attribute it to some external factor like racism where you can't prove it. I'm done talking. Let's continue.
In other words, take a look at behavior, choices, and culture, Mr. Kendi. The history of formerly lagging ethnic groups is instructive, whether measured by rates of alcoholism, high school graduation, or income. Irish Americans used to lag far behind other American ethnic groups. As one point of reference, the incarceration rate for Irish Americans was 5 times higher than for German Americans in 1904. The response? While some Irish leaders blamed society, others, notably those in the Catholic Church, launched an inward-looking campaign to change behavioral patterns within the Irish community.
Before we continue the video, let's remove all the Irish parts and put black. You guys don't think this would work in the black community? I need a comment right now. Would this response not work in the black community? While if some black leaders stop blaming society and others and launch an inward-looking campaign to change behavioral patterns within the black community, would that be a positive outcome or a negative outcome? I need to hear it in the comment section, guys. And you don't need to be black to comment on this. This is American, because at the end of the day, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, whatever, you're an American. You have a say in this conversation. Because at the end of the day, your tax dollars are going to be funding these policies that they're trying to pass in Congress in the country anyway. So you have a say. It's a public discussion. We should have a public discussion about it. Do you guys not think this would work in the black community? If you, like me, you believe all men are created equal, you'll say, yes, this should work. But if you think, black people have a different anatomy than Irish people, than white people, then you ain't gonna see the merit of this approach. Change what you're doing. This is personal responsibility. This is what conservatives are talking about. Look inward. Fix what you can fix. Then you worry about out there. Get your own house in order. Then you can start complaining about, damn, look, your yard not work, neighbor. Why you ain't taking care of your yard? Imagine that. Imagine I'm in my house, right? I come out and my grass is unkempt. I live in an HOA. My house is unkept. And I go start ragging on the neighbors next to me. Oh, look at your grass unkept. And they look at me like, bro, look at your yard. Your yard's a mess. I can't be the only one thinking this. I can't be. I refuse to accept that I'm the only one thinks the long line this logic. Oh, look, I'm a linear thinker. It's due to my trade. I think very linearly. This happened because of this factor, because of this. There's multiple variables, and this is the outcome. But for someone to come to me and say, hey, the reason why this result happened is because of this one factor and this one factor alone, you're making a crazy, wild argument to me. That's all I'm saying.
The question isn't whether there's a net worth black-white gap. There is. The question is, what do we do about it today? Answer, reconsider net worth destroying policies like the welfare state. And then there's the minimum wage.
May I ask a question about unemployment? The latest figures I saw indicated that of black youth, something like 46% of those who wanted jobs were unable to get jobs. I really would like this time to ask both of you to respond to what would you do in that situation. If you would assume for a moment that these are people who do want jobs and are unable to find work.
I would, first of all, repeal the minimum wage law, because if you go back to, say, 1950, 1948, 49, 50, you find that at that time, the unemployment rate among black teenagers was a fraction of what it is today. And there certainly wasn't any less racism then than there is today. What was different was that at that time, the minimum wage law was a decade old. It was a decade of inflation, and the law hadn't been changed. So for all practical purposes, it didn't exist.
Well, don't you think that was also a decade of expansion in which there were a lot of jobs, whereas today our economy is in a recession and there are not that many jobs
If you look
available.
at the most prosperous years of the 60s and 70s, you don't find black teenage unemployment as low as it was in the recession year of 1949.
Well, I don't know what the job situation was then, but it's only recently that we have reached
I was a
point.
black teenager in 1949.
Did you get a job?
It was a recession year, and after a considerable looking, I found a job. But the point is, the kid who was living where I lived then, who's living there now, he has a hell of a lot harder time finding that job because there are so many good people who have tried to do good for him and priced him right out of the market.
Well,
Good intentions, but bad results, right? Oh, this was the intention of minimum wage, but what was the outcome? That's it. Look, if you test a theory in reality and reality gives you the answer, you must accept that's the reality of your policy positions. You don't keep pushing in and pushing in and pushing it. Oh, they implemented it wrong. It's crazy. If I put 2 + 2 = 5, that's a theory. That's my theory. And everyone tested. Okay, they take two pencils, and they did this to me. I can't be like, oh no, you did it wrong. You're supposed to make it 1/2 inch of a pencil. Like, I can't mental gymnastics my way into making it 5. The reality is 2 + 2 is 4. There's no decimal points. Like, how much evidence do we need? And the funny part is, mainstream media ain't gonna teach you this. You may not learn this in a classroom if you go to a public school, especially. You won't learn this anywhere else. This is why Ibram X Kendi is a good decision on his part, but for America, we missed out on a great debate that could have been had. A televised debate that all of America could have tuned into and knew, like, okay, let's go. Racial equality in America. Is it due to racism or not? Let's go have it. Larry Elder on this side. Ibram X Kendi on this side. Have at it. Moderator in the middle, whatever. But instead, we got cheated out of it because one guy wanted to think about himself than his so-called people. Guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me hear your thoughts on the comment section, whatever it may be. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.